show you how to make a demonic tree limb. Basically, it's a prop that I've designed to look like it's coming out of the tree. If you take a look here, you'll be able to kind of see how it goes straight up against the tree there. And it's really not that hard. I'll be showing you all the different materials that you're gonna need. Plus you're gonna need zip ties. They're not on the table of stuff that I'm showing you, so you wanna make sure you get zip ties too. And like I said, very easy to do. Takes a little bit of time. Takes maybe about 5-6 hours to put it all together. Then you have to stain it, then you have to dry brush it, and then you get this creation. Today I'm going to show you how to turn the materials that you see on the table right here into a demonic tree limb. That is designed that when you put it on a tree, it looks like a demonic tree limb coming out of the tree. So the materials that we're going to be using today are pool noodles, some chicken wire, a skull, 2-inch PVC pipe, 1/2-inch PVC pipe, part of a board, baling wire, rebar, and some deck screws. Now the amounts I have here are just like, this is just more or less to show you what we're going to be using. We'll be using different amounts in that than what are on the table. It's just for a visual for you. First thing you're going to do is get yourself a piece of PVC pipe, maybe about 1.5 to 2.5 feet long, depending upon how far you want to have this coming off the tree. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a wooden plug that goes into the base of here. When we create the wooden plug, we're going to drill a hole and we're going to be putting the rebar into that wooden plug. We're going to create a mount on the tree so that we've got this coming out right here. This is going to be going into the mount on the tree, and that's going to be holding it into place for the tree limb. Okay, one of the things that we're going to do before we start out is cut the 1/2-inch PVC pipe. The 2-inch PVC pipe is going to be the main core body of the demonic tree limb. We're also going to cut about 4 to 5 foot length of the 1/2-inch pipe, and this is going to become arms for the demonic tree limb. Now, simple enough to do. Cut it off. And what we're going to be doing, if you come on over here, we're going to be taking a drill bit with a 7/8 inch bit. We're going to drill a hole through both sides, and we're going to be threading this through here, and then we're going to bend the arms into the shape that we want them to be bent into. One of the keys to this is creating a plug that goes into the bottom here. That's going to be part of the mount and part of what you mount to the tree. So what I like to do is I like to get a piece of wood. This will fit in here. It's not going to be a perfect fit the one way, but I can still like kind of rig it up enough that it will fit in there okay. And I'm going to make a round plug. So I like to do this in a 4-inch length, which is about the width of the sander belt. Now just get your saw. Cut a piece off. This is going to be pretty close to what I want to fit in there, but obviously it's still a little bit too large. So I'm either going to chisel or cut this down close to the roundness size, and I'm going to take it to the sander, round it off, and get it so that it's more or less like a pressure fitting where it doesn't like slide in easily, but I can with a hammer get it in there. I'll coat it with a little bit of epoxy, put it in there. It'll go in about that deep. I'll also hit it with a deck screw at the top here, drive the deck screw through it, and then before I put it in, drill a 1/2-inch hole to right about there, and that's going to give me something to mount onto the tree for the mounting system. Use the sander, and I made a plug that's going to fit in the bottom of here. It's going to fit pretty well. Tap it down. You can take a look. You can see how it fits in there. And what I'm going to do is I'll apply a little layer of epoxy out there, and then when it's in a little bit, or when it's into where I want it, I'm going to take a drill bit, drill a pilot hole, and then zip a deck screw into here. And that'll give you a nice firm base here. It'll allow us to drill our rebar hole right up there. Now, as far as this goes, I use the sander and the sander to make this. You might be able to find dowel rods at Home Depot that are just about the size and everything. You might just have to sand down a little bit. Gotta be honest, I kind of have fun doing the sanding and getting into shape, so it doesn't bother me. But you might want to check Home Depot if you don't want to go through all that trouble. So I'm getting a little bit of epoxy here, mixing together. Yeah. Easy enough to do. Sure, there are lots of different types of epoxies out there. It's JB Weld. Always wear your gloves doing this or using super glue. Stuck my fingers together too many times to not do that. That's one of those lessons you only want to learn a couple of times. I probably learned it like 20 or 30, but I'm a slow learner sometimes. Okay, take the plug, grab a brush, brush the epoxy onto the plug. You know, I'm wearing gloves. Don't want to try not to get too much on myself if I can avoid it. Pop this into the hole. Grab a hammer. Tamp it down in. Got it right where I want it. Now, I'm also going to zip a screw in, drill a pilot hole. Now I know it's about 4 inches, so 4 inches is right about where my thumb is. So go down just a little bit below that. Now I'm going to try not to go down the center exactly because that's where the rebar is going. So try to go at a little bit of an angle here. Grab my deck screw, it's 2 inch, perfect size for a 2 inch pipe. Drill this in here. Went a little bit long, so what I'll do is I'll just grind that off. In between the pressure, the epoxy, and this screw, this thing's gonna be solid. A little earlier, every time I do this, I'm doing things a little bit differently. I'm learning stuff every time. You know, most like the trees and the demonic tree limb, which I've done this year, and I've been experimenting, figuring out how to make them up, doing them as I go along. So I'm doing this in a little bit of a different order. Basically, the plug that we just did is down here. I drilled holes here for the arm. These are 1/2 inch PVC pipes don't be going through here. So I used to drill this, I use a 7/8 inch of a bit. Drill that, goes through the one side, drill it through the other side. Then you're gonna get your 1/2 inch. Thread that through. Still gonna give us our arms. Make sure the arms are about the same. Then what I do is get a drill bit again. Drill in there. Grab a 2 inch screw. Okay, these are deck screws that you get from Home Depot. I found these to be awesome for a lot of different things. They're very sturdy, they don't strip very easily. And quite honest, that's all I need to do. One screw, that thing's not going anywhere. Nice and solid, you got your arms in. Next, I'll get the heat gun and I'll heat the arms into a shape that I like. Actually, I might wait a little bit, put my head on first and do the head first. I'll get back to the head in a couple minutes. I want to show you how to do the neck extension. Like what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting the 1/2 inch pipe in here, screwing it to the 2 inch pipe, and basically what we're doing is building a place for the head and where the heads don't rest on. Now the nice thing about this whole thing as we're doing and everything is extremely lightweight. So it never gets real heavy, but it's also sturdy and it hangs on the tree really, really, really well. Now, take the 1/2 inch pipe, make sure you don't drill down into your finger. Also make sure you got your screws nearby. that in. Now you can go all the way back to the arms if you want. If you want it out further, it's up to you. As for the length of this, that's also up to you. One of the nice things about these is they're extremely customizable. You can make it as large or as small as you really want to do. So I'll put this in here. Drill my hole. Unfortunately, I slid just a little bit. No biggie. Drill. There we go. Got one in there. Now for this I like to use 2 or 3 to get it nice and sturdy. So you get your drill bit. Drill another hole in. Do one up top here. Get another screw. Pop it in. And then, honestly, that's all we need. What we're going to do next, we're going to start positioning the arms, get the arms in a position that we want to get them. For that, take the heat gun, heat up an area. Now you want to make sure you figure out ahead of time what position you want the arms to be. The heat gun actually heats up the 1/2-inch PVC fairly fast. Pretty cool. My son got me this heat gun the other day using his allowance because my heat gun gave up the ghost. So what I'm going to do is bend that forward just a little bit. Turn it off. Grab some cold water, hit that joint with some cold water. That'll help solidify a little bit faster. And I've got my first bend. And then what I'm going to do is a second bend, get it going a little more forward. Feet around it. Now you don't want to leave it in any one place too long. You don't want to see discoloring. You don't want to see smoke coming off of it. Just want to heat it enough that it starts to get a little gooey and bendable. Okay. Got that where I want it. Cold water. Do the same thing to the other side, and I got my arms. I will also be doing the same thing with the neck here, or I'm probably going to bend the neck upwards a little bit also. Our next step, I got it framed out, I got the head on, got the arms bent to where I want them. What I want to do now is start building up the body, and for that I'm using these foam noodles. The foam noodles give it a nice shape. You're able to contour our bark. Like, you know, we're going to be using a version of corpsing, which I call barking, since we're turning into bark. Conforms into almost like a tree limb shape. We're going to do it all the way around, and what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to do an outer layer where I'm going to take this and just cutting off a very thin strip. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give myself more surface area where I'm going to be able to adhere this to the pipe. Now if you just go like around here, that little bit, that's a very small contact point. By getting my thing, cutting out a little bit of a surface to contour to the pipe a little bit more, I'm making it so that it'll fix on better. The other thing I'm going to do is I want it thicker down here and thinner up here. So I'm actually going to kind of do a taper as I get up towards the neck. Now this is not an exact science. Now I'm just kind of making it up as I go along, trying to get it to about where I want it. Now, using a razor blade, be careful you don't cut yourself. I've got a couple scars from when I was a kid. Once you get into the approximate shape where you think is that way you're going to want it, spray this with an adhesive. Now I use the 3M Super 77. I've used Gorilla Glue. I find this works better with foam noodles. Gorilla Glue is good for if you're just corpsing, but for the foam noodles, that definitely works better. You don't need to go all the way down to the end here. We're going to be doing something a little bit with some chicken wire, and that's going to allow us to conform to the tree that we want to put this on. So when you do this, if you want to go all the way down the end, that's fine, but it's not necessary because we're going to be covering part of this up with the chicken wire. When you put the noodles on, you may find it's like kind of tough to get them to stay into shape. Like down here, the adhesive is staying on the pipe just great, but up by the neck, it's not really staying on. All you need to do is get some zip ties and just zip tie it around there. It'll zip tie into shape, and that's literally it. It's no big deal. The zip tie, you cut that off, you keep it on there, you cut it off later on if it gets adhered really, really well. If, as we get out further, if you want to use more zip ties, it's real easy to do. Make one zip tie, a small one into a long one. Just take one, slip it on the other one. Now you have one that's almost twice as long, and you can make it as long as you want to. So let's say you have a whole bunch of these that you want to zip tie into place to keep them into place. Just get a bunch of zip ties, tie them together, and it'll help you keep them into place. I've wrapped the inner layer here. I wound up using more zip ties than I thought I would. And I'll have to add at the beginning of the video when I'm talking about materials, zip ties. Zip ties are very helpful. So I've done the inner layer. Now I'm going to do an outer layer. Basically, the outer layer is pretty easy to do. I'm going to get lengths of the pool noodles. I'm going to cut them in half. Got them in half. What I'm going to do is put these on top of the ones that already exist. Get the same bend, the same contortion and everything. As I get up to the head, now this is just a design preference. It's up to you how you want to do yours. When I get up to the head, I'm probably going to taper it so that a little bit of the branch covers up the skull going up around the back and everything. Give it kind of like a more continuous look to it. And we'll see how that looks. The outer layer of pool noodles on. It's kind of got that branching look now. Once we put the plastic tarp on it, it's still look good. I also slid pool noodles over the arms. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting like the twiggy type fingers. And the way I do that, so I get a pair of wire cutters here. And I just cut out like little holes here so I can see the PVC under it. I cut out one right on the side. There we go. I do one on the top, not directly like in line with the hole I just did, like offset it a little bit. You'll see why in a minute. So now I got two areas where I can see down to the PVC. I grab the drill. I drill holes into those two areas. Go all the way through both sides of the PVC, do the top. Then I'm going to get some of the baling wire. Now, cut off a length. Now with baling wire, for what we're doing, it's better to go too long than too short, but obviously you don't want to go too long. And I'll get this, and I'll treat it like a piece of thread. And I'm going to thread it through the holes that we just did. Now the reason we did holes on the bottom and up top, right there, I'm going to take this, thread it down, through. Got these wires here. It gives us two fingers, but because of the way we just kind of tied it in there, still don't keep them from flopping around, still don't make them solid. Now, obviously, these are about eye level or so you might want to wear eye protection when you're doing these so you don't poke out your eye. The next thing we're going to do is get a piece of foam. Now, with the foam, you can use scissors. I'll cut this into whatever shape you want your finger to be. I'm a little bit lazy, so I'm just gonna go for like a nice little pointed shape here off the side. Now you can cut like extra twigs in here if you want to. You know, you can take little shapes out. You don't want to go too far in because of the what we're about to do. But you can add little shapes in there. Not something that I particularly like doing, but it's easy to do. Okay, make that wire as straight as you can. Then you're gonna run the wire through the foam. If it comes out like the top or the bottom, that's fine. Just push it back down into the foam. No big deal. But you do want the majority of it in the foam. There we go. Came out that side a little bit. Push. Push. There we go. Got it on here. If you take a look, most of it's inside there. It's pretty sturdy. And because it's the baling wire, you can bend it. It's not super bendy because the pull noodle fights against it, but you can get some bends in there to give yourself some shape. I have most of this fleshed out. A couple more things we gotta do. First of all, bottom here, we got the plug that we put in earlier. I never did the hole for the rebar. So you just take a 1/2 inch spade bit. Now, honestly, smart thing to do there is to actually do that before you put the plug in. But like I said, it doesn't really matter that you do it after, but you do run a little bit risk of damaging something if you're not careful. Now you can see that goes right in there. Where eventually you'll like create a mounting system where the mounting system goes on a tree, the other piece of the rebar goes into the mounting system, and it just hangs out. This is sturdy enough that it easily holds it. This is light enough that it's no problem. What we're going to be doing next is we're going to be creating a chicken net skirt. And the chicken net skirt is going to connect here. Like you can see, this is not all even down here. It's not a big deal because it's going to be covered by the chicken net skirt. We're going to make it so that the chicken net is connected to this. It's going to come out. And the way we want to set it up is so that when you put it up against the tree, the netting forms to the tree. All right, we want to do a chicken net skirt. Now basically place this on here, and this is where it doesn't matter that you have the mounting system, like you can see the pipe there and everything. It's still going to be covered up by this. And the way you want to do this when you do it, you want to have it thinner at the bottom here, flare it out a little bit up here. Remember, this is eventually going up against a tree. I may trim this down a little bit to make it shorter so that it fits the tree a little bit better. I'll be going out, putting it up against a tree, making all my measurements, figuring out how to fit it best I can. As you put it around, you can just hook the different edges of the netting together. Like I said, go thin, flare it out as you get further down, or go farther outwards towards the tree limb, or towards the tree trunk that you'll be going for. So I'm connecting these. Be careful, they are sharp. You know, if you're not careful, you can hurt yourself. Get a few holes that you didn't have before in your skin. Okay. Now for this, if you wanted to, you could zip tie it in there. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna try zip tying and see how zip tying works. So let me grab some zip ties here. I've used like little metal wire ties before. You can maybe flip these down so they connect in this way. Also, you got these little sharp points here. Push them into the styrofoam. push it into the styrofoam. That. Now I'm going to get the zip ties, zip tie it on there also. Run the zip tie in and out of some of the chicken netting. Try not a whole lot, just a little bit over here and there. For this, I'm going to cut off the end so it goes through the chicken netting a little bit better. Like I said, a lot of this stuff I'm making up as I go along. I'm testing out new things, doing things I haven't done before, because that's the way you learn. That's how you figure out things. Oh yeah, that's nice and tight. That's not going anywhere. Yep, the zip tie worked. So now you got the netting on. What I'm gonna do next, I'm gonna take it out to a tree, and this is way too big. I'm gonna figure out where I need to cut it. Once I figure it out, I'll get some tin snips, cut through the chicken wire, and then the next thing after that is we're gonna corpse this whole thing and give it an outer skin, so that it looks like more cohesive. One of the things you want to do with the chicken wire is you do want to crimp it up here, try to get it to form to the shape of the pool noodles. Now, and you kind of do that going up there. Get just even a little bit. Do that all the way around, just a little bit. Do want to heat up these pool noodles, and you want to like get a little texture and a little shape going to these. So it's pretty simple. You break out the hot heat gun, start heating up the pool noodles, and what I like to do is I like to make little patterns here. I don't know if you can really see what I'm doing, but you can see how it's high here, goes low, high, low. It gives a nice texturing to the pool noodle and to the final product. I do every pool noodle that there is, hit it. Now if it starts to melt a little bit, try not to breathe it in, but overall it's not that bad of a thing for the look. Make sure you do the arms, should do the fingers too. Not sure if I'm going to say the heck with it or if I'm going to unwrap the fingers and redo them. Decide that in a few minutes. This is one of the things that when we, after we're done corpsing it, this will make it look a little bit nicer. Show you how I'm making the mounting system for this. If you have any scrap pieces of wood around, just about any scrap pieces of wood will do. I have some old decking from out back. I'm going to cut this into about a 6 or 7 inch, actually an 8-inch piece. I'm going to cut a piece of this. Okay, I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to cut a piece of this. I'm going to attach this to this board, and it's going to give me probably about 3 inches or so board coming out. Now I'm going to drill a 1/2 inch hole going through there. The rebar that connects into the tree limb will slide into that mounting system. I'm going to set it up so that I can attach the mounting system to a tree using screws or lag bolts or something like that. This prop is so light that actually just using 3-inch deck screws is enough to do it. So just cut it. And you should wear eye protection when you do that. I'm in a little bit of a hurry here, so it's not an excuse, but didn't do it. Another old scrap of board laying around. I'm going to cut about 3 inches to 4 inches of this off. So what I'm going to be doing is I'll attach this to this board, just drive a couple screws, maybe 2-inch deck screws through the back there, right there and there. Then drive the 3-inch deck screws through there, drill a 1/2-inch hole through there. I've got my mounting system, that way I can mount it to the tree. Okay, here's the mounting system. You see I was talking about the board attached to the other board. It gives us quite a bit for the rebar to go into. So I actually did the 2-inch screws right through there into that wood there. Makes it nice and flush back there. Drilled 2 holes there. That's where the 3-inch screws are going to be going into. And you can see the big hole for the rebar in the center. So take the screwdriver here, run through the board. Got one. Okay, I'm putting a second one on here. Second screwing. And that's giving me my mounting system. Take the rebar, put the rebar in. Honestly, it's not going to really take any hammering or anything. Do it just because of it. It's pretty solid. I might wind up cutting the rebar down shorter. I haven't decided yet. And this is where I see how the skirt is. So, things I'll probably do here is I'll probably cut a little bit of the skirt off. I'm also going to cut the rebar shorter, but you get a general idea how this works out. You can see how this is coming out off the tree. Get down here. You can see that the skirt will cover the whole base plate here in the mounting system once I get it up flush. And basically the idea is for me to bend the chicken netting. So look at this a little bit more. I might not even cut the chicken netting back. I'm probably still gonna cut the rebar down a little bit, but this thing's pretty solid. It's not gonna go anywhere. So you can see I've got the rebar cut down a little bit. If you take a look at the netting here, basically the netting is butting up against the tree. If you find that it's like stretching out or something, just get it, like once we have it all wrapped up in the plastic and everything, if you find it's getting loose, just take a nail right through there, right through the other side, and it'll still look fine. This is really solid. It's not going to go anywhere. No, don't worry about that. So that's the mounting system. We're almost there. Next thing I'm doing is plastic corpsing it, painting it, and we're done. Getting ready to corpse this, and I just wanted to give you guys a quick note for when you're corpsing it. As you're wrapping in the plastic, you might want to use like heavier gloves or something, because you want to kind of push the plastic down into these gaps. That way as you're heating it, it kind of conforms to the shape, and it's going to look a lot better, as opposed to if you just like pull it taut, it's not going to look as good. I have the plastic corpse now, so it's all covered up. Now, I have to hit a couple places with heat gun. Next thing to do after you plastic corpse it is paint it or coat it. Now there's probably a lot of different ways you can do this. The way I do it, like years ago I saw the Stiltbeast Studios video. In there he was using a hickory stain. And I always use like a base coat of the hickory stain. I find paint sticks to that really well. Like the gel stain sticks really well to the plastic, and paint sticks pretty well to the hickory stain. After I do that, do some dry brush painting, try to bring out some lines, really make it look good, and then we're done. Okay, and this is our demonic tree limb. A couple things about the demonic tree limb. It looks like it's coming straight out of the tree. I had to do a couple of different things, like since the last video. I stained it. Actually, my wife stained it. She was very nice to do that for me. But I did all the painting, the highlighting, to try to make all the different features pop out. one of the things I did when I was coming up with the highlighting for this is I actually tried to get it to match the trees that we have on our property that I would most likely put it on. So colors I went with, like most of the trees are gray. They got a little bit of green mixed in there. They got some white. So when I made the tree limb, I used a little bit of spray paint, did a very light misting of gray. Then I got this greenish type paint that I mixed green paint, gray paint, and a couple other paints together to do my first dry brush highlight. I pushed it on a little bit hard, and then I did a lighter dry brush in white to try to make this pop out. Plus I like the white because I think it looks pretty good. Anyway, this is my demonic tree limb. Have a good night.